Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and today we're looking at I'm going to explain this in a minute. The wrong background for the beginning of the show. I'm doing so well already. For all of you who drink a shot every time I screw up, you should be drinking that right now. Oops. Got a little distracted. So anyway. Oh my God. Anyway, I want to welcome everybody to the show. I'm talking today about the case of Cameron Todd Willingham. He was executed in Texas on exactly this date, February 17th, 2004, for what was believed he was guilty of, the murder of his 3 little children by burning up the house with them in it. He was not in it. He managed to get out of the house, but the 3 little children burned. His wife was out of the house at the time doing some shopping. This has become a poster boy case for the Innocence Project. And so I was asked to look at this one. And people know my opinions about the Innocence Project, which aren't high. But I try to look at each case separately, because I'll say this before I get into the show. Just because the Innocence Project, in my opinion, has gotten some people out of prison that are not innocent, it doesn't mean some people they represent, well, they may be innocent. And so I don't believe they have a 100% track record of getting guilty people out of prison. So I'm willing to look at each case separately and see, what do I think about that particular case? So that's why I looked into this case. Before I get started, I want to welcome everybody who is in the chat room, and I've already said hello to. And we have a pretty big crew here today. I'm glad you're here. If you would like to be in the chat room for my live shows, I do 8 live shows a month. I do 4 case shows, generally speaking, on the weekends, and then 4 case shows during the week that are hangouts. So if you click the link below for Patreon, it's $5 a month. That's 1 level only, and you can join the community. You can be at the live shows in the chat room, and you can also, we have different things that happen during the week. We can communicate. You don't have to join the channel to see any of my shows. Every single show I do make public. I do the live shows, and then a week later I make them public. So you can just subscribe to the channel, which helps this educational channel survive. So please do that. Like the video, click the bell for notifications, and do check my playlist for cases that you might be interested in. You can support the channel in other ways. I have my books below. Only the Truth is my fiction book. Really well-loved fiction book. It's only $2.99 on Amazon. You want a great story to read? I love this story. I really do. And I have other books too. They're in the links below in the description. And there's also a little $ you can always donate to the channel. Okay. Here we go. Here we go. Now let me get the right picture behind me now. I can't believe I started out with the wrong picture. Okay. That's the way I do it sometimes. And I just want to say today, while you're drinking shots, I'm going to have this glass of red wine. And I'm drinking this red wine because, well, I'm drinking this. It's a Da Vinci. It's a Chianti. You can buy it at Weiss supermarkets for $12.99. So it's cheap, but it's actually decent. And I'm not shilling for the company. I just like this because if I ever want a nice wine to drink, especially when I don't have any company. Oh, are you looking? I don't want to spend 30, 40, $50 on a bottle of wine. And I'm doing this because my daughter and my granddaughter are presently in Italy, and they just sent me these pictures of, oh, isn't that cool? That's the Leaning Tower of Pisa, or Pisa. I don't know how you pronounce it. It's not pizza. That I do know. And isn't that cool? And this is the night shot. Is that not neat? And it really does lean, that's for sure. And they just went up it, and it's 253 steps, and you can feel it go like this, she said. She said it threw off my equilibrium and made me nauseous. But they got to the top, and a really cool picture, but I won't show that to you because my granddaughter's face is in it, and I'm told not to put my granddaughter's face on my channel, which is a really decent thing to not do. Okay, so that's why I'm having wine today. So anyway, let's get to it. And by the way, thank you all for being patient. This was supposed to be a show yesterday, so April Fool's on you. It wasn't. It's on April Fool's Day. I moved the show. It was like two something in the morning, and I realized this is Easter, and I just did not want to talk about this case on Easter. It just seemed like really wrong thing to do. So I moved it to Monday so that it would not be on Easter Sunday. So that's what I did. All right. So are we all ready? I hope. I'm just going to check to make sure you can see and hear me, just because I don't see anybody saying that, and I want to make sure you can before I get into all the issues. So Michaela says, no religion, Pat. This is true. I try to stay away from politics and religion on the channel, but I also try to be respectful as well. So that's why I will respect other religions too on special holidays, if I can remember. Everybody was out of town. I forgot it was even Easter Sunday because they weren't even here. So and we usually have Easter dinner. We do. So anyway, yes, you can see and hear me. Okay. All right. To this case. Okay, for those of you who don't know what it is, I'll do the Wikipedia deal, and I'll at least give you the basics of this case in a very short form. Cameron Todd Willingham, that's this guy, was an American man who was convicted and executed for the murder of his 3 young children, and the ages of their young children were 2 years old, and these twins are 1 year old. He was executed for the murder of his 3 children by arson at the family home in Corsicana, Texas, on December 23rd, 1991. Since Willingham's 2004 execution, significant controversy has arisen over the legitimacy of the guilty verdict and the interpretation of the evidence that was used to convict him of arson and murder. Okay, so now, where did the controversy come from? Well, the controversy came from the Innocence Project, because they look for anything, especially when a guy's been executed, and they think there's some way to present this as a wrongful conviction. Now, here's my problem with, as many people know, but I'll say it again, the Innocence Project. I wish they would call themselves the Anti-Death Penalty Project, because that's exactly what they are. They're not really trying to just focus on innocent people. They're anti-death penalty, and they're not that concerned about the innocence of the person. This is what bothers me. So to me, they should call themselves the Anti-Death Penalty Project, which is a legitimate cause. And then they could say, we have 2 categories. One, the guys we absolutely believe hands down are innocent. And we really want to fight for them, because what's worse than being put to death for something you didn't do? I get that. Then there's a second category, which will be, we think he's guilty, but we didn't like what the state did to convict him. We think the methods they used, the machinations that they went through to get this guy convicted were not acceptable. And in other words, if it can happen to a guilty person, it can also happen to an innocent person. So we don't want to let the state get away with convicting people wrongly, not because of their innocence or guilt, but because of their methodologies that they used, that should be illegal, should not be permitted. So I would have no problem with these 2 groups. So if they got out a guilty guy because the state shouldn't have legally been able to convict him, I'm okay with that. I'm not happy about it, mind you. I'd be very unhappy. And the good thing about being unhappy about that is that then you should be angry that prosecutors use squirrely tactics to convict people. Even if they were totally guilty, you still shouldn't use squirrely tactics. And that can ruin the way we look at how convictions are gotten. So I totally agree with that, but that's not the way they present it. They only present it as 100% innocence. And a good portion of the people they get out, that they actually succeed getting out, are not innocent. And I find this disingenuous and unethical. And that's my problem with it. So I would rather they call themselves the Anti-Death Penalty Project and focus on these 2 different groups and for the reasons I said, and be just honest and straightforward and ethical about it. I wouldn't have an issue with that, because their concerns about the death penalty, and this is not a political channel, I get it. There are reasons to be concerned about the death penalty. Some people like it, some people don't. And there are good reasons on both sides as to why one might want it and why one might not want it. Okay, so I say just be honest. So if the Innocence Project, who just called themselves the Anti-Death Penalty Project, and fight for people being wrongly imprisoned because of improper wrongness, not having the proper evidence, or doing something with the evidence that's questionable, or creating evidence, or whatever it is, I'm okay with that. But please stop saying people are innocent that are not necessarily innocent, because I think that puts a black mark on your organization. So I support them changing their name. That's what I think about them. All right, so now there are innocent guys on death row. Statistically, there are. Yes, this is true. And again, we want to be honest about that. There are some. There's no question. There are some. I mean, the question is, why are they there? Some are there, especially in the older days, because there was not DNA, and they went strictly on circumstantial evidence. But some of those circumstantial evidence cases are pretty good, and the Innocence Project gotten them out, even though they damn well did it. They didn't have DNA in those cases, or the DNA that they did find eventually was not DNA that had anything to do with the crime. But yes, there obviously are. There's another group of people end up on death row, and I'm not necessarily death row, but just innocent people convicted. And there are 3 cases I worked, which I believe those guys are not the right guy. One was already in prison for life anyway, so he took an Alfred plea, said it's not me, but hey, whatever, because he was already in prison for life. And the other 2 were very squirrely characters who nobody liked. One was a 100% psychopath, but he wasn't, I don't believe he was the guy that committed the crime. The other guy was just a loser, and I don't think he committed that crime. So I have 3 cases which I feel they have the wrong people. They're not nice guys, but they're the wrong people. And I will point this out, that and one of the guys, I'm going to wait till I show you the guy that points this out, but just because what he said was, just because you're a scumbag doesn't mean you're a killer. And that is true. He called this guy a scumbag, but he's not a killer. And that can be absolutely true. You can be a psychopath and not be a killer. You can be a psychopath who kills some people, but not be the one who killed those people. So this is where it gets really tricky, because you can't just convict somebody because they are a psychopathic killer. You can have a serial killer who killed 8 women, but didn't kill the other 2. So maybe he's already imprisoning, and somehow they toss those 2 on him because they want to get rid of those cases, and that means that there's another killer left out there, because it could be 2 serial killers. Yeah, so just because a guy's a scumbag and even possibly a killer, he shouldn't be convicted of a crime he did not commit. Not that I feel that sorry for him, but that it's not right. That means the other killer is out there. So this case is very interesting, because pretty much until after he got executed, nobody liked this guy. Well, I'll get into all the people. There's few people who did like him. Okay, so let me show you where I got my information from to begin with. All right, I read a book. Actually, I haven't finished the end of the book, so I don't know what the guy thinks, because I got distracted. But it's called The Skeptical Juror, by the trial of Cameron Todd Willingham, and it's quite good. It's got a lot of the trial stuff in it, and I guess he's a kind of a series, so I guess he does a bunch of different trials. I'll link that below. And also, I watched 3 documentaries, and let me tell you a little bit. You got to be very careful when you're watching documentaries. Come on now. Okay. While I look for my picture, would you take a drink? Damn it all. Where is it? Where did it go? Come on now. Seriously? I actually have sent this picture over twice. It's gone. How in the heck does this happen? I sent the picture over. I did. And I do want to show you where I got the information from. So hold on a second. Can't believe it. Can't believe it. Wait a minute. I don't have any shots, but I'll drink one. Okay. But I do need to show you this, where I got the information from. Hold on a second. I swear I sent it over twice to StreamYard, which is where I get my pictures, where I do my shows from. And I cannot believe it's still not here. And sometimes they don't take. It's a weird process. I can't explain it to anybody who doesn't do StreamYard. And if you did do StreamYard, you know what I'm talking about. But sometimes, for whatever reasons, your pictures don't show up. Okay, hold on a second. No. Oh my goodness. Drink a lot. Where is it? Come on. This is crazy. Now I've lost the entire picture. This makes no. Oh, there it is. Okay, I see it here. I'm sending it over. See if it'll show up. I'm sending it over again to see if it will come in. And I may have to. Sometimes I have to send it over by email if it doesn't show up, because that's the other only way I can get it over there. So I will send it by email as well. So this is where the chat room comes in handy. You can hang out and drink shots and chat. Okay, let me send this over by email as well. Okay, hold on. Just one teeny little second. Still doesn't love me. This is where new people come in and go, okay, I'm done. Let's see if it came in. Unbelievable. Nope, see, it won't come over. It will not come over. It will not come over. It's some weirdo glitchy thing. I can't get, it's weird. I can't even get it over by email. What the heck is up with that? Oh, maybe I forgot to send it properly. I don't know. Almost here. Almost here. I think it's almost here. Or not. What in the world? Nope. Seriously, it won't come over. It will not make it. I may have to just hold up the picture, which is pretty bad, but I may just have to do that because for whatever reasons, it will not. Oh, there, finally. It came over by email, but it won't come over. Won't come over the other way. Fascinating. Okay, now I'm going to find it. I had to send it by email because it was not cooperative, and here it is. Okay. Ta-da! How many shots have you had? I should look at you guys in the chat room. As I say, it's an educational channel. If you're not here for education, you're in trouble, man. I'm just trying to see who got drunk. I'm having more wine. Okay, so these are the three things I watch, and the reason it's so. What? This is what Joe says. This is why I never do lives on my channel. Trust me, Pat. Compared to me, you're Alan Turing. You're really nice, Joe. Welcome, Joe. I haven't seen you in a while. It's great. I'm here for the fun. You kind of have a sense, people wonder why I laugh during my shows. They think I'm like this disrespectful, but I do like to have fun because, quite frankly, I just don't want to do. I do a lot of research work and stuff. By the time I do these shows, I want to have a little bit of enjoyment, and I love my crew over here in the chat room. They keep me honest and humble. Anyway, Three things. All right. The trial by fire is a fictionalized version of this case, and it is a 100% anti-death penalty show. And I actually have to say, I liked it in a weird way. I did like it. Now, Stacy, and her last name I keep forgetting, and Willingham, she's got her maiden name, or her new married name, whatever it is. I'll find it somewhere. It's hard to pronounce. So anyway, Stacy didn't really like this show because they only presented her a couple times. She said they were not accurate about her, and I agree that's probably true. They weren't accurate about many things, but Laura Dern plays. Let me tell you who she plays. She plays this woman, Elizabeth Gilbert, who is not the one who wrote the book Eat, Love, Pray, which makes me want to throw up. So anyway, just not that Elizabeth Gilbert. She was an advocate for Willingham. And this Elizabeth Gilbert was in the, you'll see her in this show, which is Incendiary, the Willingham case. And this is a documentary. This is a fictionalized version of the story, okay, based on a true story. But we'll take liberties, as they usually do. This last one here is an ID channel one, which I was actually shocked they did. It's I guess a series called Evil Lives Here, and they let Stacy have the entire show by herself. And I thought that was kind of fascinating because she gives her side of the story, which is definitely not included here and not really included here. So, no, not included here at all. But in this one, it's slightly fudged. Anyway, so in this one, you'll see Elizabeth Gilbert, who was an advocate for Todd here, and she supposedly is somebody who gave a not too pleasing review of this. Said basically she's a bleeding heart, one of these prison, writers, write to prisoners and then fall for them, and one of those groupie types. And they did not cleverly, but they did, I think, show that kind of well in this particular show. They saw her as a very easily kind person, a person who stopped at the side of the road to help someone. Her two children were very annoyed with her because they're like, hey, you're just too involved in this crap. And the guy's a killer, because at the point in time when she started writing letters, she didn't know whether she believed he was innocent or guilty. And her own children were like, stop it. You're paying more attention to him than us, which is probably accurate. And so she was an anti-death penalty person to begin with. That's how she got involved. And so she started writing him, and then she got to the point where she basically believed he was innocent. So then she started fighting for him. I don't really know how much she personally did, but along the way, the Innocence Project got involved. And they were the ones who then got some arson experts, which you'll see in this show. They get some arson experts who disagree with the arson reports from the original trial. And they only got involved like 2 weeks before. Like this top arson guy, who is going to be this guy. His name is Gerald Hurst. He is a brilliant fellow. He got involved, and he, by the way, is anti-death penalty. So I'll get into that issue in a bit, but he got involved. And so they only had 2 weeks before his execution, and they tried to get a stay of execution. And they were like, Texas was like, so he got executed, which really very much upset her because, hey, she's trying to save this guy who I now believe is innocent. And so it's kind of funny, but in that movie, one of the scenes in there that just kind of amused me was that after he was executed, this is the graves of his children, and they show her with a box with his ashes, and this is Laura Dern, and she's sprinkling the ashes as he requested over the graves of his children, and so here she is doing. But this actually, I'm not sure. Wait, what is that? That's from, I think, I'm not exactly sure. Wait a minute, I'm a little confused on that picture. But the real story is that he wanted his ashes spread over the graves of his children, but his wife, or his ex-wife, wife at the time, did not want that to happen. But somehow his relatives got hold of the ashes, because I guess they were given to his relatives, and they snuck in and did that. So she was pissed. So anyway, so they kind of made her more of a, that's how they do things. They don't really care about the total facts. But anyway, but I'm going to say what I liked about this movie. They presented his early life, and let me show you just a little something here. When you look at these two and their early life, this is Todd, and this is a picture of them together before the children died. She is, I think, 20 years old at that point. She's a few years older. She's 20. She's already had 3 children by 20. She met him she was working at Dairy Queen. And one day, this is an interesting story, which is told, by the way. It is told in the, let me put the other picture back up for you. It is told in the ID show. So in the ID show, she tells a story of how they got together, which I think is important because it shows you the personality. Now, again, a scumbag does not a killer make necessarily. So keep that in mind. So because I can't say that enough, because so many people will say, well, he's a scum. You're just saying you don't like him, so therefore he did it. No. And that is not necessarily what the jury thought either. And the jury did find him guilty within under an hour. So that's pretty quick. He wasn't, but I have to admit, he wasn't a good character and he didn't come off well. But you shouldn't convict somebody because of that. That's not enough. But she tells the early story about how they met. She says she was 17. He came up to her and he's like, hey, my brother wants to date you. And she's like, who's your brother? And he tells her, he's shy, blah, blah, blah. So she comes over. She's like, well, okay. And so she goes, meets both of them. And the brother never says a hardly word. And Todd's doing all the talking. They end up going out together, Todd and Stacy, and not the brother. So later on, she asks him about asked the brother about that. He said, well, I never even knew who you were. So Todd was using his brother as a foil in order to hook up with her. That doesn't make him a scumbag. No, it just makes him a little bit sneaky. But that's how they met. So anyway, they met. She's 17. She gets pregnant. Todd is not happy. Okay, so we have an unhappy Todd. Well, I can't blame him for being unhappy. Who the hell, your girlfriend gets pregnant at 17. Very few guys have got, oh, great, But he seemed to blame her. Like, you got pregnant. I always love the you got pregnant. I'm thinking A and B have to come together. And you're one of those. So she didn't get pregnant by herself, unless she did some medical thing. So somebody did something to somebody and got her pregnant. So where was your condom? Condom. Young people, condom. Guys, condom. Girls, condom. I don't care what other birth control methods you use, or if you're dating a girl, if you're a guy dating a girl and she says she's on the pill, condom. First of all, it protects you against diseases, but condom. You don't know if the girl forgot to take her pill for 3 days that month. Condom. You don't want a kid? Condom. You're a woman who's trying some other foam. She's trying this. Condom. Just use it. I don't care. Just use it anyway. Condoms can break, but he didn't say the condom broke. So basically, he didn't use one. And so he got her pregnant. But he blamed her. And this is important because the blame game for some people is very important to the future consequences of the relationship and what happens. So he blamed her. And so, but after she had the first child, they got married. And then she got pregnant again. And he blamed her again. And she came back, and unfortunately, she was having twins. So she's not even 20 years old. She got 3 kids. He said she should work, and he would stay home, watch the kids. Really? Okay. So anyway, that's the way things were, supposedly. And by the way, I will say this. I found this a very interesting show. Do I believe everything Stacy said? No, I believe a lot of what she said, but could she have fudged a few things? Sure, she could have. So, one of the problems we often have is that we want somebody to be 100% honest, or they're not believable. I found her, for the majority, not to be deceptive. Do I think maybe a couple things she was a little bit less forthright on? Absolutely. Why is that? Because she feels guilt as well as to what happened. And so that's important to know. So anyway, here they are. So here we are. And now they have 3 kids. They don't have much money coming in. They live in a shabby little place. And she claims that he beat her. When he found out she was pregnant with the first child, he kicked her and beat her. And then later on, he beat her again. And now there's no police record of this, although there are people who say they saw the damage he had done to her. So I'm going to say, do we have proof that he beat her legally? No, we do not. But he himself basically says he did some things to her that weren't proper. So I'm going to say he did assault her. He did have an anger problem, and he hit her. He also said he cheated on her during their very short marriage. So they fought. She admits they fought. He admits they fought. That's not an issue. And again, this doesn't mean he killed his children. So you have to keep this in mind, that you can get right up to the scene, the day of a scene, and it's not necessarily so that he killed his children, just because he wasn't what his defenders say he's a scumbag. But hey, that didn't mean he did it. And that is true. So, but they had these 3 kids, and so she claims right before this happened, she had told him that she was going to leave him, but she had had enough. Now she says and admits, and I believe this is true, he never hurt his children. Never. He didn't hit them. He didn't harm them. He did not. He only harmed her, but he did not harm the children. Keep that in mind, because this is an important point of, would he then, if he never hurt his children before, he even took care of them, would he kill 3 children when he never ever hurt them? But she was done, and she said, I'm leaving you after Christmas. I've had it. I've had enough of this. And so this all happened prior to Christmas, the actual fire. So she had told him that. And now, why did she tell him that? Is it because it was true, or was she trying to get a reaction out of him? Because, a lot of people say things just to get a reaction. Oh, you can't leave me, honey. Blah, 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 blah. So I don't know if she meant it or she didn't mean it. I don't know. And she in her story, she says that she meant it. I don't know that she did. But that, neither here nor there. Basically, they had issues. And he beat her, but he never did touch the children. So keep that in mind as to that. The other thing I want you to keep in mind is, after the fire burned up, and I'm going to get to the fire in a minute, and he was convicted, she actually took the stand. This is her when she's young. She took a stand in his defense during the trial and said he didn't do it. He never touched the children. He loved the children. We did not have a fight before this happened. She took the stand. She goes on Montel and says, no, I believe he did it. And later on, which is her there now, today, she says, I believe he killed his children. Now, what changed? So a lot of people really hate Stacy. Say she's a lying bee, and she's just trying to blame her ex-husband. Why would she support him if she thought he killed his children? Well, maybe she didn't think he killed his children. When you're in a relationship, and she was only 17 when she met him. It's only 3 years has gone by. Her whole family situation sucks. Eventually her stepfather killed her mother. So not a good home life. And I don't know what kind of sport she had, but she had this guy she fell in love with. And this man she had children with, a lot of women stay in abusive relationships as long as they're not hurting the children, thinking he'll get better, he'll get older, he'll mature, he'll this, he'll that, and they still love them. When her children died in that fire, she truly did believe he didn't do it. And I mean, in the beginning, and she's changed her mind, and I'm going to get into, should she have changed her mind or shouldn't she? But she truly believed he didn't do it. And even if she had the inkling that he could have, think about it. If you were the mother of those 3 children, would you want to believe your husband did it? Because if it's true, you're the idiot who stayed with him and didn't run away with the children. You left your children with a man who murdered them. So the guilt is going to be really strong. So if nothing else, you want to believe he didn't do it. Absolutely want to believe he didn't do it. So I don't fault her at an age of 20 and her husband, by the way, she shows us in the show, wrote her letter saying, this is how you need to present me at trial. You need to be there for me. And so he coached her as to what she should say. She also feared him. So that's another issue. But I'm going to leave that there because I want to get now to what exactly happened. Okay. It's a very interesting case. Let me check your comments before I go on to that part. If he was a woman, he would be one of those Munchausen proxy women. I don't think so. I think the comparison that I would give to Todd, if he's guilty, and I'm going to say that because we haven't gotten there yet, whether I think he's guilty or not. If he's guilty, Chris, I would say Watts. I would say Watts would be the example. There are a great number of men who don't beat their children, don't hurt their children till the day they don't want them around, until the day they want their freedom, or they want to. And supposedly Stacy says that he said, well, I don't want to ever let you go. So she was leaving with the kids. So he thought, the claim is, she says that, well, if he got rid of the kids, she wouldn't leave him. She'd come back to him to have more kids. Supposedly after they died and they were in the hospital, he said to her, why are you crying so much? Because we can have more kids. She thought that was weird, which it is. Very concerning. But he would be more of a Chris Watts kind. I'm done. I know I don't want the burden of these children. And if she's leaving me, on top of it, we have a child support motive because I got to pay child support for 3 children the rest of my damn life. Good motive. I want to be free and I don't want to pay child support. So he'd be more of that kind, not a Munchausen syndrome type at all, because Munchausen syndrome is to get attention. I don't think he was trying, if he did this crime, he wasn't trying to get attention. He was trying to get out of something if he committed the crime. And this is where we get down to what happened. All right, so let me go back to the picture that took me so long to find. All right, so Trial by Fire. I wanted to say this about Trial by Fire. It's an anti-death penalty movie, and some people thought it got boring, but I actually thought it a little bit in the middle, but I thought it was actually quite well done. They did present him as not being a perfect person, kind of a scumbag. They presented her a little bit too blandly, I thought, and not her, sorry, the one that's missing, Stacy, the one that's supposed to be here. They presented her as being a bit of a groupie, which she was, in my opinion. So I didn't have a problem with her representation. Then they had an interesting representation of death row. And I will say it was very convincing in the sense that if you're watching this movie and you watch death row, and you watch the guys going down to the chamber to be executed, you watch how they live, it's pretty heartrending. Okay, even if you think all the guys are bad guys, and they present one of the death row inmates, and they did this cleverly. So you got to watch out how they're manipulating you in this sense. So the guy is a good-looking young black man, and he says, I can't believe I'm on death row because what happened was when I was very young, like a teen, I was involved in a robbery and I shot the guy. I did shoot him. I did kill the guy behind the counter at the store. But, I was a young kid and I didn't plan to shoot him. I just, it wasn't like premeditated or anything. I was stupid and young. I don't know why I'm on death row for that. I should have gotten manslaughter. Well, manslaughter is a bit of a stretch, but they presented him. And then, of course, he was kind to Todd, and he was a good support. And then eventually you see him going off to death row, and everybody's like, they bang things as the guy's going down to the chamber there to get executed. And you do it, your heart kind of does break for him. And you think, this poor guy, he shouldn't have gotten murder one. And he shouldn't have gotten the death penalty for that. And I don't, I would agree. If I would agree that if it's a teenager who's involved in a robbery thing, would I give him the death penalty? No, I wouldn't. Because he's young, dumb, and I would give him, he's killed somebody behind a counter. I'd give him 20, 30 years in a heartbeat, but I wouldn't give him the death penalty. So you feel for this guy, and they present the guy that you care about. They don't present the serial killers, they present the guy you can care about. And they have a guard there who's a scumbag himself in the beginning and beats him up, which I didn't buy. And then he turns around and begins to like this guy. So at the end, he's got to take him down to his death. It's a very well-presented drama, which I think pro-death penalty, anti-death penalty, it hits you here. So I have to say that I think they did a good job of showing the issues of people on death row, and then the finality of it, and how horrifying it is to be on death row. I get it. They did. I think they did a good job. I did. I think it's not a bad movie, and I don't think they presented the information, the actual facts, well enough, because it's a pro anti-death penalty movie. So they've made a determination from the beginning he's innocent. That's the whole point. He's innocent, not just anti-death penalty, but he's innocent, just like the Innocence Project. And therefore, we're going to make sure you only get enough information to make sure you feel he's innocent. Therefore, you're going to be really upset when he gets killed. Okay. So, but I think it wasn't bad. Now, Incendiaria is a documentary. And here we get a little bit more information. And along with the book I read, and I'll try to link some of the reports, the arson reports. It's where's my book here? Arson is flaming. Well, okay. Flaming. Difficult to deal with. This is one of the books I've had forever, Practical Fire and Arson Investigation. I bought this years ago. I wonder if this is when did this come out? 2000. Okay, it came out in 2000, after more scientific methodologies of fire investigation and arson investigation turned up. I'm going to say I did try to examine the arson issues here. I'm not a fire investigator, and it's very complicated. So if you think I'm going to present either side of the case in this show, you're sadly mistaken. It's not going to happen. It's too complicated. But what I want to point out is what's most important to understand about this case, okay? And why he was taken to trial, why he was found guilty, and then what the new arson information, which they present in the show, does it exonerate him or doesn't it? Okay? So now let's look at what happened. All right. Let's look at what happened. Okay, let me switch picture. Okay, so let me show you just the house. All right, this is the house. You're going to see here a window. That's the children's room, and over here you see the door to the front of the house. All right, so here is what happened. So Stacy goes out shopping for Christmas presents. At supposedly around 9 in the morning. Now that gets a little iffy here, but this is quite important. Todd apparently did tend to sleep in late, which might have some importance here. But there's 3 children, and he's supposed to be watching them. She gets up. Now there's 2 different stories here, and I don't know which one is absolutely accurate. She says she was up and she played with the children. Now this was the children's room. There are 2 cribs and a bed. Twins in the cribs, 2-year-old in the bed. Okay. And she was in there, and she had the child gate up, which is a simple one. And She said she gave them bottles and was playing with them on the floor. Then she saw. Then Todd came and was standing there looking at him in the doorway, so he was awake. And she said, "I'm going to go do some Christmas shopping. I want to buy the 2-year-old a Christmas outfit." And so she left the house approximately 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm just looking here just to make sure I've got the details correct. The details are in so many places and so often not exactly the same. And as I point out over and over and over and over to people, if I wasn't doing a YouTube show and was writing a book on this, I'd spend a year, hundreds of hours of work getting everything exact and rechecking everything. This is a YouTube show. I don't have that kind of time. I'm not getting that kind of pay. All right. So I'm doing the best to help you in an educational show understand things. So she leaves approximately 9 o'clock in the morning to go shopping. She did go shopping. The police actually went after the house went on fire. They actually went and find her, and they found her, and they said, "You have to go to the hospital," because her 2-year-old was in the hospital. So she went there, and then the child expired. Then she was told the other 2 were in the funeral home, and she said, "Why are they there?" Because they're dead. So that's how she found out. So she was not home. Some people actually claim, get this one, that Stacy set the fire and then left the house. All right, let's not even go there. It's just silly. All right, so the question of this is, was this an accidental fire or was this arson? So she leaves the house. Todd is home alone with the children. All right, here's where the story goes a little questionable. All right, so let me show you a layout of the house. Where's my favorite picture? Okay, this is the best picture of that. All right, it's not the entire house, but this is where. It's not the entire house. Where's my picture of the entire house? Hold on a second, guys. Yes, I am searching for pictures. Yeah. Well, I'm going to stick with this one for now. All right. This is a picture of the room that the fire was in. You can see the 2 cribs. You can see the bed. And you can see down at the bottom, this is the porch. The fire was mostly in the children's room, like almost 100% in the children's room. And the rest of the fire was in the hallway. You will notice a 90-degree turn there, like in the bedroom, then in the hallway, but only in the front of the hallway, going out onto the porch. You'll notice to the right is the living room, and up above the living room is the master bedroom. The master bedroom is where Todd and Stacy slept. And this is of great importance, so keep that in mind. All right, so, here's the rest of the house. I was looking for that picture. It's behind me. Okay, anyway. All right, so the fire is here. The fire is not in the living room. The fire is not in the master bedroom. The fire is not in the extra bedroom, and the fire is not back in the kitchen or the utility room. It's just here. Okay, so now, Todd says, let's look at Todd's story. Todd's story is changeable, and he changes his story. And the question is, why does he change it? And eventually explains why his story changed a wee bit. Anyway, he claims that he gave the children bottles, the 1-year-olds. They were here, and there was a child gate. He claims that the older child was asleep in the bed. Okay. Let me get their names straight again, because I keep saying the 2-year-old, and I want to say the names. Amber was the 2-year-old. The 1-year-olds are Carmen and Cameron. And by the way, Kirkendall is the name of Stacy's name now, Stacy Kirkendall. So Carmen and Cameron, they're the 2 little girls, the 1-year-olds. They're getting the bottles. And Amber is a 2-year-old. Now, Amber is supposedly in this bed, sleeping. And this is Todd's story. Now, she says she gave the kids bottles and she left. Todd was awake, standing there. He claims he gave them bottles. Well, whether he gave them the bottles, she gave them the bottles, but she said she was playing with them on the floor. Okay, that's why they have a child gate, so you can be in the room and the kids don't run out, and you can play with them and all that stuff. Keep in mind, 2 1-year-olds and a 2-year-old. So now Amber's supposedly asleep on this bed, and the 2 2-year-olds are, whether she gave him the bottles or he gave the bottles, are drinking the bottles. What does Todd do next? Todd says, after they got the bottles, Amber being asleep, he goes from here back into the master, where is the master bedroom? The master bedroom, and goes back to sleep. All right. I got issues. Okay. Being a bad father doesn't make you a killer. This is true. There could definitely be an accidental death. An accidental fire started, and he just was a crappy father and was ignoring them. But who the hell leaves 2 1-year-olds on the floor and goes back to bed? I mean, there's things in this room that they could choke on things. They make a big deal of this. There is a heater here in the corner. And the claim was, well, what if they put their fingers in or something? No, it was oil. It was oil, not electric, and it was not on. And now I'll get into that because that's an issue and what started the fire. But who the heck leaves 2 1-year-olds crawling around on the floor without, just because you have a child gate up doesn't mean they're safe. I can even imagine leaving. That's why you have cribs, and that's why you have playpens, because a playpen will at least keep the kid in the playpen. Now, mind you, I'm one of those mothers who never had a crib or a playpen. I was a family bed person, and my kids, I was always with them. So I never did put them in a playpen, or I did put them in one of those bouncy things you stick in the doorway so they jump up and down, and that was great, but I never left them just 1 year old, running around. I mean, at least I thought I would be awake, for God's sakes. I mean, accidents do happen. I mean, they do. I get it. If he left the kids rolling around on the floor, he went to the kitchen, thought, I'm just going to go to the kitchen and get something. And for whatever reason, a fire started. He didn't even realize it. And he came running down. Oh my God. I'm okay with that. He went back to sleep, leaving 3 children unattended. And it's already after 9 o'clock in the morning. The 2 1-year-olds are clearly awake. They're not sleeping, and they're not in their cribs. The 2-year-old is asleep, supposedly. But, she's going to wake up. Now she is 2, so a little bit better, but still just 2. What the hell are you doing asleep? Now, his story is this. Amber, get her name right. Amber, he's sleeping, and he hears, Daddy, Daddy. Basically, the house is on fire. That changes a little bit. Daddy, Daddy is something he definitely says over and over again. She said, Daddy, Daddy. I think this is true. And I think it's stuck in his head. What she was saying Daddy, Daddy about is another question. He realizes smoke, so he gets up and puts his pants on. And I go back and forth on the pants issue. I'm like, if there's smoke in my house and I'm worried about my kids, do I give a shit if I'm in my underwear? I don't think I would give a crap. I'd rather run out without my underwear on. I don't know if I want to take the time to put my pants on, but okay, maybe your brain is not functioning. You're still half asleep. You're like, what the heck? Is there smoke in the house? Oh, I'll put them on. Because I don't. So anyway, he puts on his pants. He comes out of here. He yells, he claims, Amber, get out of the house. The kid's 2 years old. Does she know how to get out of the house? Especially if there's a fire going on, does she know how to get out of the house? Now, take a look at the door down here. I don't know about you, but if I have 3 children here and the 2-year-old can climb over the baby gate, which they said that she could, would you leave the door unlocked so your 2-year-old could leave the house? Just push the door open and walk out of the house? Although he said he had to kick the door open, so okay. I can't get quite the information on the door, but why would you tell your child to get out of the house? And there's only one way out, by the way, because in the kitchen, interestingly enough, there is a refrigerator that is covering the. This is what the house is. This is the hall right here. This is a this is the refrigerator that is blocking the back door to the kitchen. There's only two ways in and out of the house: front door, back door. Before Christmas, Stacy said he came home with this refrigerator. She said, "What are you doing with it?" And he said, "I'm going to fix it." She goes, "Well, they already had another refrigerator. I'm going to fix it." Okay. But why doesn't he fix it someplace else besides putting it in the kitchen? And then she said, "Can you not put it in front of the door?" But he did. He put it in front of the only exit out of the house. Now, again, I don't know if Stacy's story is true, but that back door was blocked. There's only one way out of the house, and that's here. Now, true, it's closest to the room, so does it make sense that if she was in the hallway yelling, "Daddy, Daddy," that he might say, "Get out of the house," but only if the freaking door is open? I've never gotten information on whether the door was unlocked, easy to open for a 2-year-old, and why would you leave that? Why would you go to sleep if your 2-year-old can get out of the house? But okay, that's his story. And then, now mind you, his story does change. At another point, he says the child was in bed with him and said, "Daddy, Daddy," and he got up and said, "Get out of the house," and she apparently didn't and just stayed in the bed and died. Anyway, but her feet have burned. Her feet were burned, so that don't make sense because there was no fire in this room. All right. So now what happened? He claims that after he told her to get out of the house, he crawls. The smoke is so bad he can't see anything. So he checks the kitchen first. Again, we have something interesting. Is he trying to stop a fire in the kitchen, or is he trying to get his kids out of the house? He checks the kitchen first, which was not on fire. And I'm not quite sure whether the door is shut at that point or not. But anyway, there's no fire in the kitchen and there's no damage in the kitchen. So I'm going to say that likely the door is shut. So anyway, he says he came out of here, stopped to check this, then crawls down the hall because so much smoke. And then he somehow kicks this little door. I don't know if this is a little confusing. I'm out the child gate. Then he crawls around on the floor looking for the two children. He can't find them. He finds a teddy bear, thinks, "Oh, that might be a kid." How small are your kids? That's a little teddy bear. I mean, really? You think that's a child? Anyway, he's crawling around on the floor looking for the kids. You know what the kids were? The kids were there and there. If you come in the door, they're right there on the floor. So apparently crawling around, he could not find them. But okay, let's give him a break. Maybe he came in here and looked around this area, couldn't find them. And then it's so bad he couldn't take it anymore. So he crawls out of there. He says he comes down the hall, kicks the door open, and gets out on the porch. That's the story. Now, mind you, later on, he will tell a different story. He says later on that he actually never went in that room because he wasn't all that burned up. Let's put it that way. His feet weren't burned. He had a little bit of singeing, tiny bit of stuff. Didn't have much smoke inhalation, and it's like, did he really go in the room? And eventually, he says he never did. And he raced out of the house. So he admits he never tried to save his children, is what he finally admits. Now it's interesting because after he's finally admitted that, let's look at this. Let's look at the statement. Let's see if I can find her statement. The crime, this is his advocate, right? The crime that Todd is guilty of is self-preservation. What you see a lot here is making excuses for a behavior. Lots of excuses for behavior. Yeah, the guy's a scumbag, but that doesn't mean he killed the kids. Yeah, he didn't actually try to save the kids, but it's just self-preservation. And you'll get one of the things that this guy, which this guy, wow. Let me tell you who he is again. He's one of the arson guys, and he runs a show on the John Lentini. He gives every excuse in the book for Todd Willingham. Outside of his expertise is fire analysis. He's not a psychologist and he's not a crime scene analyst. He's a fire analyst, and he gives all these excuses. Well, yeah, he wanted to get out of the house. So he lied about that. Okay, so the thing everybody asks is about Amber. If she was in the freaking bed with him and there's smoke in the house, wouldn't you pick your child up and run at least get the freaking 2-year-old out of the house, dump her in the lawn, and then go back in for the other two. Wouldn't you think? But he didn't. So somehow Amber got out of the house, which makes no sense. So his story, let's say this, is questionable. And that's why there are people who think he's guilty. Now, that doesn't mean he's guilty. I mean, again, he could be a scumbag who's who's trying to save his own butt. Maybe he doesn't give as much of a crap about his kids as he claims, but it doesn't mean he committed the crime either. But let's look at some other things that he did, which made people suspicious of him. There's reasons that the jury found him guilty, and some of this has to do with his behaviors. So after he got out of the house, he went and moved his car away from the house, pushed the car away from the house, said to his dad later, "I saved the car." Yeah, okay. Some people will say, and this is how they try to explain away his very concerning behaviors, is that he was worried about the car blowing up because the fire might reach the car and it would blow up. Well, okay, that's an explanation. Second thing he did, supposedly, but the firemen and other people said that he was really interested in whether he could save his dartboard. He asked the fireman if he could get his dartboard. Where's his dartboard? Was he wanted to save his dartboard? Not a good thing to say when your kids are burning up in the house. You're concerned about your dartboard. Now, what do his supporters say? What does Gilbert say, and what does this fellow say, Lentini? Let me find you what they say, because I find this really interesting. Now, it's going to take me a second here because I've got to scroll back through all the crap. I tried to put them up in order on the pictures so I could just show you each one of them from the incendiary show, but there wasn't enough room. So, by the way, this is what Lentini, one of the things Lentini says is he admitted he embellished his rescue efforts. This is not uncommon when you have parents that lose children. Even if they didn't set the fire, they feel guilty that they didn't run. They feel guilt through the fire to save them, but you can't. He talked about crawling around on the floor, looking for his kids. He never went into that bedroom. He couldn't have. So now this is where he says, oh, he didn't, that's his, he's saying most parents may want to save their children, but when you're confronted with the feel of the fire, you freak out and you just try to save yourself. Am I totally opposed to that? No. Could he have lied for that reason? Yes. So I'll give him a little bit of okay, possibly. He just couldn't admit that he didn't try to save his kids. All right, let's look at this other thing that he said. I got to find it here. Is this it? So much information here. Too much information. Trying to find the thing that he said that I thought was really interesting. The excuses for him. Okay, it's not that. Okay, it's missing in action. You can't find it. There's the whole thing about the dartboard. What he's talking about is that people sometimes have bizarre behavior after the fact because they act irrationally. Why do they act irrationally? It's because they're so bent out of shape about what happened. They're so freaked out over the death of their children that they cannot act rationally. Okay, so yeah, that can be true. And they say, well, you can't say this is the way normal people would act. Who knows how normal would be under a situation like that? And I hear this a lot. But the fact is, looking for your dartboard, yeah, and moving a car doesn't make you look good. Let's put it that way. it does make you think that those are more important to you than your kid. And this is Amber. That rather than get your kid out of the house, you're more concerned about yourself. You're more concerned about your dartboard and your car. So he doesn't make himself look good. Let's put it that way. All right. So let's recap here. He beat his wife. He never beat his children. He is what everybody calls a scumbag. And he did not try to save the children. He only tried to save himself, theoretically. And he appeared to care more about his car and his dartboard, but that may be just irrational behavior. So let's stay with that, because now we got to get to the question of, but is there arson? Okay, because he could be every one of these things. It doesn't mean that arson was committed. So, and this is what the whole effort of the Innocence Project was. And this movie, Incendiary, was trying to show that in spite of his behaviors, this is just not really him, it's the actor, there is no proof of arson. And that it's very likely that they're trying to say it's very likely, more likely, and this is where I get concerned, more likely that this was an accidental fire than an arson. And they say that that means that he's innocent. No, it doesn't. Everything that's presented here and in everything I've read, and let me show you okay, so the main guy is this guy, Gerald Hurst. Gerald Hurst is a brilliant, and it's true, he's brilliant, arson. He's a brilliant science guy. Brilliant. He's done all kinds of interesting things. You can check him out. He's a very interesting fellow. He's dead now, but I think he died. If he didn't die, Gerald, I'm sorry. I think he's dead. But he's a really interesting fellow. He says some interesting things during this show. He says, for example, he says, you can never be too cocky. Never believe in your own theories. Want to test a theory? Try to disprove it with your own theories. I love that. That is correct. You know, as a scientist, you can't just say, well, look, I did this experiment, or I think this way, therefore it is. I agree with him. Always play devil's advocate. I agree with that as well. And we have good checks and balances systems, he's saying, within the scientific community. If Baylor wrote something that is stupid, now, by the way, I'll link Baylor. Baylor is one of the advocates, one of the arson guys who put this information forward after this is, unfortunately, let's say this, it's a really unfortunate all this didn't happen before he was executed, because he was already executed and it was only 2 weeks. So this guy only had 2 weeks to put together his report, and then he was executed. And then they got this guy, Baylor, who was another arson expert, and some others, but he and Baylor are the main guys. I don't think I could find his exact arson report, but I have Baylor's. I found Baylor's, I'll link that. Baylor is another guy, and he's saying this about the other arson guy. If Baylor wrote something that was stupid from a fire dynamic standpoint, we would pick it up. And if I do something stupid, he will pick it up, right? Because we do have these checks and balances, right? In science, right? We're always watching each other. Absolutely not true. I agree with him on the concept that it should be that way, but this is absolutely not true. In the scientific world, you cannot say certain things that piss people off, because you lose your standing in that scientific world. And that's why when people say, believe in science, believe in the science, as if science never changes, but it does change. You have things that people believe. The scientists proved it in 1950s, and in the 1970s, it was completely disproven by other scientists. Well, if it was true, if the scientists said it was true once, why isn't it true 20 years later? Because science is not exactly absolute. It's how you still view things that you're examining. It's still an opinion. I don't give a crap how scientific you think it is. It's still an opinion. And so we have to respect that fact, that just because scientists say it is so, doesn't make it so. If we take a look at, I'm going to blank on her name now, and I'm going to link this below. Hold on a second, just because I blanked on her name. Her name is Kathleen Folbig. I'm just blanked. Kathleen Folbig was a woman, Australian woman, who was found guilty in 2003 of murdering her 4 infant children. She was pardoned in 2023 after 20 years in jail, following a long campaign for justice by her supporters, and her convictions were overturned on appeal. So the scientists came out in droves, and I say, look at my videos on that. I am 100% believe that she killed those 4 children, and the science was garbage. And I'm not even a scientist, but I can see logic. So we had all these scientists that came out, and they think it 70 or somebody signed this petition. And the claim was that of the 4 children, 2 died of one genetic abnormality, and the other 2 died of another genetic abnormality. However, this statistics on this didn't match her 2 children, and these 2, there were just the only studies ever done were on mice, and they never did any studies on human, and these children are still in the wrong age bracket. So that she would have all 4 children die of these genetic abnormalities, wow, that was beyond the possibilities of chance, you know what I mean? So nonsense. But you had a lot of well, they weren't anti-death penalty. She wasn't on death penalty thing. But a lot of people think that women are wrongly imprisoned for killing their children. So her supporters managed to dredge up these people who felt sorry for her because they don't understand Munchausen syndrome by proxy, which is a psychopath who kills her children for attention. And they got her out of prison. She looks sad, you know, but the science was garbage. And I'm like, how the heck does nobody say, hey, this is nonsense? But I do in my video, so go check it out. So science is not absolute. And what's interesting in this case is that the original guys who examined it, the 2 major arson examiners, and also the other fire people above them in the fire department, the fire chief and all that, came to the conclusion that there was no evidence of anything being accidental. Okay, they could not come up with accidental causes for the fire. All right, so this was a problem. So now, by the way, this is true. Just because you can't prove it's not accidental, well, just because you can't prove it's accidental doesn't mean that it's arson either. But when they went after these 2, when this new review came up, and these new arson guys went after the 2 original arson guys, they basically insulted the living crap out of them. And this fellow, oh my goodness, let's see if I still have that listed here. I don't. I had to pull it because there wasn't enough room. Lentini says it's everything they did was just nonsense. It was witchcraft. Let's see what he actually said, because it was insane what he said. And this is coming from a supposed arson guy, and it was just massively insulting, in my opinion. And that's not the way you talk about the guys that worked this case before. He says, he says it's all fabricated, it's folklore, it's what I would call witchcraft. That's what he says the original arson guys did. Witchcraft. It wasn't witchcraft. They spent a great deal of time examining this house. What they came up with was areas of concern that looked like pores to them, that there were these areas, these areas here, that looked like somebody had poured, the patterns were pour patterns on the floor to ignite the fire, that there was some incendiary thing that they put, Todd, poured on the floor to start the fire. Now, there was only one place here that in scientific tests came up with any kind of liquid. And the new guys will claim it came from the porch where there was a barbecue and there was somebody could have poured some, lighter fluid stuff on the floor. Although it was, there's actually somebody who comes against that. I'll read some of that in a bit. But he said, oh, that's the only thing we have. We think it came, some leftover stuff from the barbecue on the porch. And there was no proof here scientifically when they did the testing that there was any kind of flammable liquids. Do you know how often you can test those areas and you can't find the flammable liquid information? Often. Why is that? It's because when you have such a fire, depending on the material that the fire is burning up, you may not have anything left to prove under a microscope. So they only found one area that they could prove had some kind of flammable liquid, and the others they could not. So does that prove arson didn't happen? No, it doesn't. And so what the old arson guys used to do when you could not scientifically necessarily prove everything is they looked at patterns, and they had patterns that showed certain things on the floor. Let's see if so I had to remove some of this stuff. Okay, so here's some patterns on the floor. And this is what the new arson team says. And the patterns aren't necessarily from puddling and pouring, but the word is necessarily. But they didn't say it couldn't be. They said not necessarily. All right. Prolonged post-flashover burning, and that means when everything just is a giant eraser. It just, might not be able to tell where the fire started at all. So basically what they're saying is because there's supposedly a flashover. Now, mind you, when Todd got out of the house, the one thing he did do was break the window open, smash the window here, and which just made the fire go big. I don't know why he did that. Interesting. So there was a point where obviously the fire was so strong that by the time the fire trucks got there, and they also have to, try to get in the house, you got so much damage that can you tell where the fire exactly started? The answer to that is no. However, one of the things these new arson guys say is, well, let me see if I can find it because I find it fascinating. So if you're trying to prove, if you're a scientist, you cannot say a person is innocent because you can't find proof of arson. All you can say is, we can't find proof of arson. That's true science. You also can't find proof that it was accidentally set. All you can do is say, I couldn't find proof of arson. Now, mind you, these same science guys, which bugs me, never were at the scene. Never were at the scene. All they got was reports. They read the reports and trashed the guys who were there, saying they all did just witchcraft. They didn't know what the hell they were doing. And this is not true. They were at the scene. They saw how things looked. Now, and so what they decided was, based on the fact they could not prove arson from a distance of many years and just the reports and some pictures, that therefore the guy was innocent. That is just absolutely untrue. Now, the guy I put behind me, by the way, when I started the show, I think I'm in love with this guy. I think that's why I put the guy behind me. There he is. There he is. Now, this guy is a defense attorney, which is the most surprising thing about the whole incendiary show. They had him as the only person out there saying that he thought Todd Willingham was guilty. He's not there. All the rest of people said he's innocent. He's the only person who said he was guilty. And he was the defense attorney. It's like crazy, right? And I think they tried to present him as kind of a weirdo because they had him sitting outside, and he kind of is real honest, kind of just talk normal stuff. And there were roosters crowing behind him through his interview. And since I have roosters that live next door to me, my daughter's roosters, I hear roosters all the time. So I know they wanted that to make him look like a moron, but that is not what I got out of it. Now, here's some things that he said as a defense attorney. All right, he says this: one or two fine points are irrelevant. Look at the body of evidence at the crime scene and the conduct of the defendant. The jury reached their verdict based on all the evidence, not on just one or two fine points. And that is true. Thank you, Mr. Defense Attorney. He was saying that the jury, which convicted him under an hour, looked at what the original team of guys who studied this came up with as far as they believed it was arson. And then they looked at the conduct of the defendant, which, in spite of the fact of all the excuses they make for him, oh yeah, he might be a scumbag, he might just be saving himself, he might just be, acting irrationally. They looked at his conduct, and what they saw was a man who cared little about his children and a whole lot about himself and his dartboard and his car. And with the information about the arson, supported by the fire guys, they believe he was guilty. Now, it gets tricky here. It does get tricky. Were the fire guys completely right? Well, here's one of the points that the defense attorney was talking about. They said there was crazed glass. They said that was caused by the incendiary fire type thing. And now it's supposedly proven that no, that was caused by the heated glass being hit by water from the fire department. And that's what causes it. So that doesn't prove arson. Okay, they may be right about that. I'm not saying the new team is not right about something, but they're not looking at the totality of the evidence. One of the things they say, which just kind of blows me away, is in their rush, it looks or seems like me, to prove that Todd Willingham is innocent as opposed to just maybe not knowing whether he's guilty or not. They claim that this could be an accidental fire. And actually Hearst, that's this main guy here, the main guy who is they push, and also Baylor also says the same thing, but Hearst says it in the show. Good old Hearst. Okay, Hearst. What does Hearst say about? Let me see if I can find where he says that about. Okay, I'm trying to find it here. Because I want to read his words if I can do so. Oh, Hearst, where did you go? No. I'm losing Hearst. Okay. It's in there somewhere. Oh, here we go. This is what, let me, Hearst, this guy. All right. He said the fire starts. Now, let me get rid of my defense attorney behind me so I can just have Hearst behind me so you can see his face. So you don't get confused that the defense attorney is saying this. All right. Hold on a second. Hearst. Okay. Hearst is saying this. Now, he's a scientist. He's supposed to only focus on science and not on other stuff. He says the fire starts either as a result of possibly. No, wait a minute. You already said either as possibly. Okay, so now you're just making up stuff. You're not going with scientific evidence. You're just going with throwing out a theory. Why? Because you're anti-death penalty, so you're throwing out a theory of an alternative theory to arson. A child playing with matches. And they pushed this one, by the way. A child playing with matches. Okay, so Todd gives the kids the kids are on the floor with the bottle. His daughter is sleeping. He goes back to bed. And after he goes back to bed, suddenly the 2-year-old, because it's not the 1-year-olds, they can't. The 2-year-old somehow jumps up and finds some matches. Wakes up, jumps over the gate. I don't know where she finds the matches. She ran to the kitchen. She ran someplace, found matches. I can't even start a freaking fire with matches, Okay, but there were lighters, cigarette lighters. They didn't, maybe cigarette lighters. She got hold, and half the time those are hard as hell to go like. So when she got a 2-year-old who after he goes to sleep again, she suddenly wakes up, jumps up, and runs out and finds a lighter. Then she runs back, jumps back over the gate, and starts lighting something in the room. And after that starts, then she says, "Daddy, Daddy." Then he says, or electrical. Hearst says, it could have been an electrical fire. Okay, it could have been an electrical fire. Was it an electrical fire? Let's see. Oh, yeah, here. An electrical outlet is on the east wall. This is from the original. wiring still intact. They looked at the wiring. They found no shorts anyplace. So sure, yes, it could have been electrical, but there's no proof. There was never any proof any electrical wiring was amiss. Then he says, either one of these things could start a fire. So could a firecracker. So could a whole bunches of things. But you can't. You're a scientist. You're not supposed to throw out a bunch of maybes. And also, I think the first significant fuel was ignited by one of the beds. He has no proof of that because he just said he can't tell where the fire started because of the flashover. So which one is it, Mr. Hurst? I don't get it. And then he says this. He also talks about that one of the new arson team says is the little heater thing. It's an oil heater. They said maybe that's what started it, because one of her kids, supposedly Amber, played with it once, stuck something in it. Well, there was no oil going into the house, so it could not, and it was in the off position, and it says that. Let's see if it's here. That's the electrical thing. Is that over here? Nope. Sorry, that one's missing. It was not on. It was clicked off, and there was no oil coming in the house. It was not the cause of the fire. So now we have the little oil heater was not the cause of the fire. There were no signs of an electrical short any place. So how did the fire start? And isn't it interesting that the fire starts the minute the wife leaves the house, the husband goes to sleep, and the fire just starts. Could that be possible? Well, anything is possible, but it's not probable. Scientists know the difference between probability and possibility. And in the desire, Baylor and Hurst, in their desire to prove for the Innocence Project that this was not an arson, they come up with all kinds of explanations for why it wasn't arson. But the pour patterns, the location of the actual burns, the way the whole fire went, the 90-degree turn out the door. There was something here that showed that there was some kind of flammable stuff here. The story that he gives doesn't make sense. Does it lean toward that this is arson? Yes, it does, along with his behaviors. Can it be proven it was arson? Well, according to the original arson guys, they stated that the pour patterns, the way the fire went, and what they found did say arson. And they checked for anything that would prove it not to be arson, and they couldn't come up with one accidental cause of this fire, not one. And that's why, along with Todd's behaviors, the jury found him guilty. So now the Innocence Project comes up with a bunch of new fire guys who were never there, who say, oh, we have all these new methodologies. And these two guys were a bunch of yokels who didn't know what the hell they were doing. And we're going to say, oh, that it could have been this, and that. Although they prove none of the this, and that any place, which is unscientific as hell. So if you want to say, with our new techniques, first of all, they should say, we weren't there. We couldn't examine the things personally. All we can do is look at their reports and think that we've had some new proof on the glass issue. We have some new things that say we can't say this. I think they were as not objective, which is what a scientist should be. They were not objective. They were trying to get their anti-death penalty. And so therefore they found Todd innocent, as opposed to what they should have said was, we've done our studies and all we can come up with is from a distance, we can't prove arson. Okay. The governor didn't buy it. And so he didn't get exonerated. But now I'm going to look at some of your comments, and then I want to go to, do I think he did it? And do I have any reason to believe he did it? But I'll check your 500,000 comments first, and then I'll give you my analysis of the actual, what happened. Let's say, Thomas. Hi, Thomas. One of our newer patrons, and studying great things. Statistically, most things are possible, however unlikely they are. That's where reasonable doubt plays a part. if there wasn't then a 0.0001% chance of innocent and 99.99% of guilt equals innocent. I disagree, Thomas. I think this is one of the problems. Reasonable doubt. See, what you're pointing out is beyond a shadow of a doubt. Beyond a shadow of a doubt means that there could be one lousy reason, in spite of 99 things saying this, because it's like the OJ case. Because the glove didn't fit, he didn't do it. Everything pointed to OJ doing it. And there was this one kind of unexplainable thing. That's a shadow of a doubt, not reasonable doubt. There's also, I'm trying to think of, there's a couple other cases where there's just one thing that you just can't really explain. But all the reasonable doubt is that with all the evidence we have, any reasonable person would see that this person is guilty. That's actually reasonable doubt, because you're always going to have that shadow of a doubt. You can come up with anything for a shadow of a doubt, and defense attorneys will do that all over the place. They're not worried about reasonable doubt. They try to do shadow of a doubt because juries, which I call 12 people off a bus stop, will fall for shadow of a doubt stuff because they want to be 100% absolutely not one shred of anything giving them doubt, especially in a death penalty case. They're afraid of that because they don't understand totality of evidence. Totality of evidence is what you look at, and then reasonable doubt would come if the totality of the evidence leaves way too much that's questionable. Then you have reasonable doubt. But a shadow of a doubt is not what this is about. And so you have to look at what the jury saw as evidence, which they thought was evidence of arson, and then the behavioral stuff as well. And you can try to explain everything away, and that's what a defense attorney generally does. But once you look at all the totality of things, then the question is, did this guy likely commit the crime? And if the answer is yes, and it's enough totality of the evidence, there's no reasonable doubt, then you find him guilty. Shadow of a doubt, if you went with shadow of a doubt, you probably have nobody in prison at all. Glove didn't fit because it wasn't his glove. He put on his gardener's glove. There's so much stuff in the OJ case. I've been asked to do that. I just don't know if I want to bother with that at all. Being convinced of someone's guilt is one thing, but in a court of law, there must be evidence of guilt. And is there? That's true. I entirely agree with that. I wasn't in court. And do I think there was evidence of his guilt without being in that courtroom? Okay. So that's where my analysis is going to come in. Is he a pure psychopath? Well, again, he could be a psychopath, but does that mean he's guilty? Wait. Oh, shoot. Where did, wait a minute. What happened? No, Wendy, you're not banned. Oh, frick, God. Oh, no. So, no. What the heck? How do you fix that? Sorry, Wendy, if you're listening, I clicked on something and it says Wendy in the Sun was banned and their comments were removed, but I don't want them, did not do that. Oh, and there's no way to undo that? What the heck? I am so sorry, Wendy. I apologize. That was accidental. I didn't put you in timeout at all. I can't fix it. It's just got this weird. Sorry, Wendy. You're not banned. It just can't get you back. Oh, Sarah did it. I wasn't even going from Wendy's comment. I just was trying to get to a different comment. Oh my God. Poor Wendy. Yeah, I'm sorry, Wendy. Yeah, drink, everybody. It's his time. It's time to have a drink. I clicked the wrong thing. I feel so bad. Oops. Oh my God. Okay. No more. I haven't even, look how much wine I'm drinking it now. Oh my God. I don't know why you can't fix it though. That's annoying. Hi, Wendy. Keep talking to Wendy. Wendy, you're not banned. Really, you're not. It's just accidentally removed. I was trying to click on A different comment. What the heck? Where was it? It was really good. Oh, this was the comment. I was actually, I thought let's see, where is it? Okay. Okay. Wait a minute. I thought it was an amusing comment because that actually was true to some extent. Hold on a second. Now I got to find the comment that I meant. Oh, here we go. It was Sky Ricky's comment, and Wendy was right below it, and something slipped as I was crossing it. Okay. Sky Ricky said, must be Santa Claus. He came in from the chimney and started the fire. Well, one of the things Todd said, well, maybe somebody else came into the house and started the fire. He did say that. So you see, he's trying to put in some doubt into people's heads. Could somebody have come into the house and started the fire? Well, I guess. Is that reasonable doubt, or is that a shadow of a doubt of something could have happened but didn't happen? Okay. All right. I'm going to give my analysis now. And sorry, Wendy, again. But I want to show you a couple things that my lawyer, the defense lawyer, said that I just fell in love with. I swear to God. Okay. This is something else he said. I believe that it is an accepted medical fact in the practice of psychiatry that if you murder somebody, particularly your own children, that you are a psychopath and you don't have a conscience because you can't empathize with somebody and you don't care what happens to them and you don't care if they die or how they die. Oh, I'm in love with you, defense attorney. Because one of the things they said in this case was there was a cuckoo kind of, and a little bit of a psychologist. He was named Dr. Death, and he basically didn't interview Willingham, and he said he was a psychopath because he had some posters and some tattoos. And I don't know what else he said. I don't know the truth of the statements, whether that was just something he included, but they made it look like the only reason they called Willingham a psychopath was because he was listened to certain music. And this guy was a crackpot, and he was eventually, I guess, tossed out of the psychology and whatever. But the defense attorney is 100% accurate. If Todd Willingham did kill his children, he is 100% a psychopath. Now, is there any evidence other that he leans towards psychopathy prior to the crime? And the answer to that is also yes. The answer to that is he beat his wife. He cheated on his wife. Right after the kids were gone, he said at the hospital, well, we can just have more, as if the children didn't matter. Those 3 children's lives weren't important. And that is very psychopathic. He's like, he said to Stacy, why is it bothering you so much? He has zero empathy for her. So that's concerning. His behaviors afterwards, worrying about his dartboard, shows that he cares less. He just doesn't show empathy toward his children or his wife. He's worried about his damn dartboard. That's about, I want to keep my dartboard and my car. He says some other things right when he's about to be killed. He says some things that are quite shocking in prison. He tried to convince Stacy to support him, and he tried to get her to write letters, and apparently she didn't. But she did come. She said that she went to see him. He asked her to come see him. She's got a bunch of letters, and she read some of them, and they seem like he's trying to, control her or manipulate her while he was in prison. And she didn't go see him, and finally she did. And she says when she went to see him, he confessed. Now, there was also a jailhouse snitch who said he confessed to him too. That's a whole nother ball of wax. But I'm going to talk about these 2 things that he supposedly said and see, is there anything that makes sense? And then I'm going to go to what I think happened at the scene of the fire. Not necessarily the crime scene, but the scene of the fire. All right. He told his wife that the reason he killed the kids was because he thought if the kids were out of her life, that she would stay with him because she would be all she had left and they could have more kids. Do I believe that? First of all, do I believe he said that to her? I don't know. I can't say whether he did or he didn't. She says he did. Was it but if he did, it's another manipulative thing. He's saying, look, the only reason I did is because I loved you. I lost my mind. Secondly, it's also manipulative if he actually said that, because is that really why he did it? Well, maybe also, but also maybe because she was leaving him and he was mad, and you're not going to just take the, even though I don't really want the kids, you're not going to get them. Well, I'll kill them off because that'll teach you, because he always told her he was going to teach her a lesson if she didn't act right. Also gets rid of child support. So he had motive. And whether he told her the truth or not, I don't know. He also, the jailhouse snitch, which there's a big argument over whether he was paid on all this kind of stuff. But he said something interesting. He said that Todd said that he did it, and he gave this reason for why he did it. He said that one of the kids had been injured by his wife, Stacy, and that's why he killed him, because he was protecting Stacy. Now, this is a ridiculous statement. But what I find interesting is, as a snitch, that's a strange statement for a snitch to make up. Very strange. It almost does sound like that is something a psychopath would say. Oh, I did kill him, but only because I was protecting my wife. That does sound like something he would say, and not something a snitch would even think of. I wouldn't, if I were trying to make up something about a guy who killed his kids, I would say something like, I did kill them, but it was an accident. I dropped something on the floor, or let's see, what else might I say? My wife deserved it. But to say that she hurt them and that's why I killed them is so weird that I don't know why the snitch would come up with that. So I don't know if those are true. I'm not saying they are. But let's go to my analysis, and then I'll go to your comments. Sorry, my nose is itching. All right. My analysis is going to be based on what do I actually think happened at this house. And I think the key, in my opinion, is the burns on the 2-year-old's feet, Amber. And why she ended up in the bed. Here is what I think happened. Okay, I am going to have some wine. Okay. To my daughter in Italy and my granddaughter in Italy. Why am I taking care of all the farm animals and you're having fun in Italy? Don't watch her show. She doesn't watch my show. I'm just kidding. I have been to Italy twice, so I can't say I haven't been there. I've been there 3 times. Okay, so, but anyway, and they're having a great time, as they should, as a family, without grandmother tagging along. Anyway, so let me go to the analysis. The kids are on the floor. The 2 babies are on the floor, which they are on the floor. They're not in their cribs. So according to Stacy, she did leave them on the floor. That's what she said, giving them bottles. And then she left the house. The gate was there. Todd was awake. I don't think Todd ever went back to bed. I think that's nonsense. I mean, it's true he might like to sleep in, but I know he wasn't probably a great father either. So could he have gone back to bed and said, I'm going to go back to sleep and kids will just hang out? Yeah, they could have. But how did Amber end up in his bed is my question. He never says that he picked up Amber and carried her sleeping from her bed into his bed so he could snuggle with it. He never says that. Remember, the fire happens within an hour. It happens very quickly. It's not like they went on and in the middle of the night or any of that stuff. He didn't say he picked up Amber and took her into the bedroom. So Amber was here asleep. I think what happened was that he got a flammable liquid. Now there's a couple possibilities. Stacy thinks that in this room there was a bookshelf with kerosene lamps on it with kerosene, and that's flammable. She thinks he used kerosene, and it was just say maybe just not detected. I don't know, but the fact that think again, with the wife leaves the house, and within a very short period of time, voila, a fire happens right in the children's bedroom, not in the kitchen, which is much more likely, not any place, not in his bedroom where he's sleeping, not in any other location, but right in the bedroom where the children are sleeping by just some electrical thing just happened that nobody ever found, just happened when he went back to bed, or Amber just woke up and lit the place on fire. Just ridiculous. Now, mind you, what I think is also funny is the claim that Amber could have caused the fire just by lighting a match. Well, if that's true, why couldn't Todd just light up the room? Nobody has said that. That's what the new arson team doesn't say. If they say Amber could have done it, why can't Todd do it? If Amber could have set the place on fire without any kind of flammable liquid, why couldn't Todd have done the same damn thing? Why is he excluded from doing that? And he's more likely to have done it because he's an adult and can use a fire light. He can light up the kids' beds with a lighter. But they don't say Todd could have done it. They just say Amber could have done it. Well, Amber was asleep. Amber didn't do it. So we have Todd here, and we have this possibility of the kerosene. We have the possibility of the lighter fluid from the porch. There's supposedly 4 places that were lit up, in the bedroom and then in the hallway. Todd does not have burns on his feet. He is a very unburned guy for a guy who was trying to save his children. Oh, yeah. No, he didn't try to save his children, just ran out of the house. That's why he doesn't have many burns. Okay, well, I agree. He ran out of the house. That's why he doesn't have many burns. We agree on something, Todd and me. So when you're trying to explain why he doesn't have many burns, that's it. It wasn't because he was asleep and it took him a while to wake up to the smoke because he has hardly any smoke. He has some smoke in him, but very little. So it's not like he got up and the blaze was going and the smoke was there and he was even trying to get down the hall and out of the house and leaving his kids because the fire was out there too. Oh, or wasn't it when he left the house? You see. Now, I think Amber was asleep. I think he went and put the whatever flammable stuff he put down. I think he lit that sucker up and he watched. I don't think he lit up the hallway right away. I think he lit up this room and let it make sure that it was going really good. And at some point, the 2 words that he says, that Amber said, "Daddy, Daddy," I think that stuck in his brain like one of those worms, that just won't go away. Daddy, 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 Daddy. I think she said that. I think she woke up and said, "Daddy, Daddy." The freaking room was on fire. There's smoke. There's fire everywhere. The little kids are crawling around the floor. She's like, "Daddy, Daddy." Daddy, when she says that, doesn't save her. He lights up the damn hallway and gets the hell out of the house. Now he's out on the porch. Now she's here and she's trying to find her daddy. I don't know where she saw him last, but I believe that she managed to get over the gate, which she can do. And the reason her feet were burned was because they're on the floor. I don't believe she could get out the door. I don't know if she knew to go out the door. I don't know if she went to look for daddy where daddy should be, which is in the bedroom, because that's where she was found. If she got here in the bedroom, she was found laying on the bed face down. I believe she crawled in that bed looking for her daddy, and she died of smoke inhalation. Now, she didn't die immediately because after the fire, Todd was running around outside, and the fire trucks came, and he said, "Oh, my kids are burning up," and they supposedly had to restrain him from going back into the house. Which, by the way, just to point out, he never went back into the house any place else. Look at just for the sake of it. Look at the actual house itself. This is the room that burned up. This is the door. You notice the place over here? This is the living room. This is his bedroom. That's not burning up. Why didn't he smash the window in his bedroom and crawl back into the master bedroom and looking for Amber in case she wasn't in this room, because he's claiming she said "Daddy, Daddy" and she's running around someplace, or she was in the master bedroom. He immediately, second time, he said she was actually in the bed with him. If that's true, why didn't he run around here and smash the window and make sure that she could get Amber out of the house? But he never went over here. He only smashed out the window of the where the fire actually was, so he could flash over. But he didn't go in the master bedroom, which he could have easily entered through the window to see if his daughter was in there. And he could check the living room the same way because the fire wasn't over there. You see how nice that is? Yeah, he didn't go there. He went out the front door and then whined. "My kids are in there." Move the car, and then whined. The kids were in there and I can't go back in. I won't get into all the things that the neighbors said about his behaviors, which is concerning. And the fire. So then the firemen went in the house. They found Amber in that bedroom, on the bed. They brought her out alive, and he was probably shocked as hell. It's like, crap, what the heck? She's supposed to be dead like the other two, and she's still breathing. He's going to freak. And they took her to the hospital, and she didn't make it, but she died of smoke inhalation, not being burned up like the other two, because she was in his bed. How did she get into the bed? Well, as I stated, I think she left that room. I think she left that room. I think she went through the hallway. And I think that that was before the entire house was burning down at that point. But yeah, she was able to get in, at least down to the bedroom. And that's what I think happened. I'm trying to pull up my picture of the inside of the house again. Yeah. Okay. So I think, let me recap. I think he poured the stuff here in the bedroom first. I think he waited to make sure the fire was going real good. And then he started pouring down here. She woke up. He got the hell out of the door. She, meanwhile, is trying to find her daddy. She goes over the gate, burns her feet, gets into the bedroom, and she can't find daddy. And she smoke is heavy, and she hides her face, and she dies. And she gets too much smoke inhalation and eventually dies of that. He's outside. I think that's the way it went down. It's the only thing that makes any sense to me. For his stories, the only story that makes sense to me is this is how it happened. I think that arson, well, I think the original guys proved arson. I think the second arson team just tried to disprove it and tried to claim that it could be accidental, although they couldn't find any accidental causes, and they were disproven. The accidental causes were disproven by the original team. The only thing that it could possibly have been, the concept that Amber was playing with matches is stupid, because if you're going to say that, again, you can say Todd did it with matches or later. And she didn't. Amber was asleep. She did not do that. And she didn't crawl over and get something and bring it back. It's just nonsense. The only thing that they could possibly say could have happened, because it couldn't have been the space heater, because it was run by oil and there was no oil and it was off. And the original team found no evidence of shorts or anything wrong with the electrical wiring. But that could be literally the only thing that could have caused this fire. Literally the only accidental cause. But none of what Todd says makes any sense. Everything that Todd says shows me that, yes, I agree with defense attorney. He exhibits psychopathy. I think he is one. He had motive of many sorts to get his wife back, to get rid of just get freedom, to not have to pay child support. He had motive. It all happened within such a short time after his wife left the home that would be astronomical chances that an electrical fire just happened to start then. And his story about leaving the children unattended to go sleep also is questionable. And his story about how he found out about the fire with his daughter saying, "Daddy, Daddy," but yet he, A, if she's in the bed, doesn't take her out of the house. B, just tells her to find her own way out through a door that should have been locked. None of it makes sense. He said he lied about trying to get the kids out. So yes, I don't think he did, because nothing matched him trying to save the children. So he went out the door. And my analysis is that Amber got her burned feet by waking up to the fire saying, "Daddy, Daddy," and Daddy wasn't there to save her. She went over the gate, tried to find Daddy, burnt her feet in the hallway, and then hit her face as a smoke was rolling over her and died eventually of smoke inhalation. I say Todd Willingham is guilty from this perspective. I think the jury probably heard enough to believe he was guilty. Within reasonable doubt, he was guilty. The new arson report, I find questionable. Those arson experts, I think, are just anti-death penalty people who did not do a proper scientific final analysis. They did a very subjective, trying to prove Todd innocent, and they said that, and that's ridiculous. You can't prove him innocent. You might say you couldn't prove arson, go for that, but you weren't there. You weren't at the crime scene, and you're disingenuous about your entire arson report. I think I think the jury got it right. And I'm not fond of the jury system, but I think they got this one right. And it's the totality of the evidence, both of what all the fire people said, what the neighbors said, and what all of Todd's behaviors all together. I think the verdict was correct. All right, let me go to your comments. Okay. All righty. Well, there you go. I think his crazy mind thought he and Stacy would be together forever. Wendy. Wait a minute. Wendy, did you come back? Is Wendy back? Did you return? I'm looking for Wendy now. Wendy, oh, you got back in. maybe that little timer, it's a little hourglass. Maybe the hourglass just says this. You have a short timeout, because I never block anybody unless permanently because you're obnoxious. But I don't think I've only ever blocked one patron. That's it. I block way more people on YouTube just because they're mean and nasty to me. But I think I've only had to block one patron just because they were obsessed about one case. And since I didn't agree, they kind of lost their mind over it. But I'm glad you're back. Yay. I feel better now. I hate doing bad things to people. Let's see. Correct. No one knows if Stacy's account of what Todd said to her before he was executed is accurate. Only she knows. I totally agree with that. That would not be something I would base my conclusions on. As I said, I don't know. I don't know if the snitch was full of crap too. I just find both of what they said not unbelievable, but I just can't prove that is true. But I didn't get to say let me show you what he said at the end. Okay. I didn't even do this one yet. I have to. What did he say to her when he got executed? Okay, I have it here, and I want to make sure I read it to you. It was in the newspaper too. Willingham does not go quietly. There was a woman there who actually, one who goes to all the executions, and she said his was one of the worst things she had ever seen. He basically said, let me see if I can find it. I want to read properly the whole entire statement. Okay, he's basically said, I did not commit. I am an innocent man. Okay, he says, the only statement I want to make is that I am an innocent man, convicted of a crime I did not commit. All right, but then he says, from God's dust I came. I have been persecuted for 12 years for something I didn't do. From God's earth I came, and to dust I will return. From God's dust I came, and to dust I will return, and so on and so forth. But then he looked at his wife, and he was addressing Stacy, and she said he tried to give her the finger, and then he said, I hope you rot in hell, bitch. I hope you rot in hell. I hope you rot, you C word. That is it. They actually stated that he was so nasty toward her through the glass that they started like pumping the medicine into him to get him to shut up. He was not nice at the end, shall we say. Very, very nasty at the end. So why was he so nasty toward her? Because she wouldn't write the letter to try to get him saved, is essentially the reason. Does that make him guilty of the crime? No, it doesn't. But it also shows he's not a very nice guy. But that, again, is not my analysis is not based on the fact that he is a scumbag, and that he shows even psychopathic traits. It's the crime scene and his state that bad daddy in the burn feet on Amber. Those are my red flags. Okay. That's a good point, Christy. Hi, Christy. He hates her because he did it to keep her. In his own maybe in his own mind. Yeah. I'm not saying that he's innocent, but there are still unanswered questions. But then there always are. Yeah. The thing about, again, this is the difference between reasonable doubt and shadow of a doubt. Unanswered questions like what were the unanswered questions? That there could be that somehow there was an accidental fire from some place that has never been proven to exist. So Yeah. Let's see. Uh, Kathy says this: the thought of innocent and given death penalty sure causes an uproar. Pat is right; some are guilty. The biggest, I'm not against the death penalty, but I'm not overly for the death penalty. For mostly for the reason of this: one, what if there is one innocent person? Do I really want that innocent person being killed? No. Two, it causes jurors to find people innocent who aren't, because they don't want to themselves be involved in allowing the death penalty to happen. So that kind of confuses that. If we didn't have the death penalty, would we have the Innocence Project? Might get rid of that. The problem is the massive expense of keeping people alive, and all the appeals to try to save their lives, even if they're guilty. It's massively expensive. So the question is, I don't know, even when people are in prison who deserve to be in prison, even serial killers, they'll say their life sentence is inhumane and they shouldn't have to go through that either. It's a very difficult thing to deal with. What do you do with a person who is somebody who should not be in society, and is an evil person? Put quotes around evil because some people don't believe in that. But, a person who is a psychopath with no empathy, doesn't care, and has enacted the death penalty on other people. If Todd Willingham is guilty, as I believe he is, he gave his 3 little innocent children the death penalty. They didn't get a trial. No Innocence Project came for them. He didn't care about their rights. And a serial killer enacts a death penalty on every single person he kills. Those people were innocent. They never got an investigation. They never got a trial. They never got convicted. They got tortured to death. They got the worst death penalty ever. How many got, okay, so a woman is attacked by a serial killer. She's chained up in his basement. He rapes her for days on end. He tortures her with equipment. And then he slowly murders her in the worst way ever. Is that ever done as a death penalty thing? Do you ever see these guys being raped over and over and over again while they're on death row, and then being tortured and then getting some kind of really sick ending? No. They don't go through that kind of thing, but yet a serial killer has no problem giving that kind of incarceration and death penalty to his victim at all. So the fact is, killers believe in the death penalty 100%, but they just don't believe in any kind of justice system, because they're the only ones that decide whether somebody lives or dies and how they live and die. It's pretty sick. So the victims are often left out of it. One of Stacy's, why she's so upset about so much of this, is those 3 little babies. Like, nobody really, they care more about Todd than they care about the 3 babies. And that's true. And I understand we have to fight for a just system, and we don't. If you're against the death penalty, I don't have an issue with that. I think you just have to fight for removing the death penalty without trying to say guilty people are innocent, and doing everything you can to make them look innocent when they're more likely to be guilty. And then if you believe in it's funny, I don't believe in the civilian jury system at all. I want a professional jury system that has people trained like myself to be like a 5-person professional jury, where our names are picked out of a hat, as it comes along. And 5 of us are then professionals who've been trained in crime scene analysis, profiling, and all of that, can analyze and understand what these experts are trying to tell us and determine whether it's reasonable or not. But it's funny that the same people who are anti-death penalty are often very, very pro-civilian jury system. Oh yeah, civilian jury system, we have to have that. But when the civilian jury system finds the guy guilty and sentenced to death, suddenly they hate the jury system and they think the jurors are idiots. That's kind of it's always amusing, yeah, kind of funny stuff. Now, let's see. Okay, everybody be nice by the way, be nice in be nice in the chat room too. No, let's not criticize each other. We all have different opinions, and it's tricky. It's very, very tricky. I say that it is an issue which is going to continue on and on and on, for so many reasons. And in my opinion, I guess I would say I am not against the death penalty, but I wouldn't have an issue if it was stopped just for the sake of not having these kind of conversations anymore. Find a way to get the guy away from society. Let the guy be in prison for the rest of his life. Don't let him get married while he's in prison. You get Ted Bundy. Don't let him date in prison. Don't let him get married in prison. Don't let him have conjugal rights and create children. Don't let him have a life like that. That's just insulting to the victims. Let him be by him. Let him not have access to the outside world. I would have no problem with it. Just give him a life sentence, no access to the outside world. Just your lawyer, just your clergy. Lawyer and clergy, that's it. And do you even have a right to see your family? Okay, if you're going to do that at all, okay, just your family. And you cannot see anybody outside your family. You don't get to see you don't get access to internet. You can't write letters. You can't be on, I say, dating sites. That is offensive to me. So if you give him a true life sentence where he's away from society 100%, I can live with it. I may also have no problem with the death penalty of Ted Bundy, especially serial killers, because there's no question in those cases. It's not like, oh, he didn't do it. There's so much evidence, yes. I don't understand the difficulty. You can get all kinds of issues with the death penalty. But that's not neither here nor there. The issue I'm trying to determine is whether, in this particular case, there was reasonable evidence to believe he was guilty. And I think the answer to that is yes. I wasn't there, but I can't get past Daddy, and the burn feet of Amber, and the rest of it. Let's see. So most of you are going on about the death penalty, so I'm not going to go into that here because this is an educational channel for criminal profiling, crime scene analysis, so I try to keep away from all the politics of this, which is hard when it's a death penalty case. And it's the Innocence Project, but anyway. I'm trying to see if anybody is commenting on my analysis as opposed to the death penalty. Okay. A lot of death penalty stuff here. So I'm not going to let that... it didn't start immediately after she left. No, Olga. It wasn't immediately. She was too far away she was already out shopping and too far away for her to have committed the crime. She did not start there. And again, it's everything about the way it went down and what her husband said. If it had happened when she was just in the driveway, that would make sense. She was driving away from us. No, she was already in town shopping when the fire started. So no, she did not commit the crime at all. Kurtz Broughton says, doubt that the defense attorney had many clients after that interview. I mean, I was really surprised. I mean, you rarely see a defense attorney say, man, this guy's guilty as hell. You rarely see that. And it's just, but everything he said was so exactly rational. And I just had to laugh at his description of psychopathy was rational. And his description of leaving the kids on the floor, let's say, is this where he wrote that? Let's see. There was one other thing. I don't know if I read it already. Jeez, I've forgotten where I'm at. Oh, yeah, this. Didn't he say put the kids on the floor? Yes, and give them a bottle. Right. He took them out of their cribs, their baby beds. Well, that's his claim, but then the wife said she left them on the floor and put them on the floor. Yeah, and then he said, why the hell would you put them on the floor? I've got 6 kids and 14 grandkids. I've got a lot of experience with babies, and they're 1-year-olds. So you take them out of their baby bed, put them on the floor, give them a bottle, 1-year-old, and there's a space heater. So if you're saying the space heater's on, you wouldn't do that if the space heater was on. So that's nonsense. And that they could stick their hand in. Does that make sense? Don't make sense. So basically he's saying all this stuff about the kids being on the floor and then him going back to bed is just, you don't do that with 1-year-olds. You don't leave them unattended like that. That's insane. You could do it in at least in a crib or at least in a playpen, but not roaming around an entire floor of a house without you being there to watch them, or at least going back and forth. I mean, I can see where you look at the kids, make sure they're okay, and you run to the kitchen and you get a beer and you come back at 9 in the morning, drink your beer. Fine. Okay. I can deal with that. But You don't go back to bed and leave little children unattended. And again, you could say it's a bad father, but it's how the fire happened, which I believe the first two arson guys are correct, that they looked for accidental reasons for the fire and they could not find any. No electrical wiring problem, no oil problem, no space heater problem. And so that's why the new arson guys had to say, well, maybe Amber started the fire with some matches. Oh, come on now. There was evidence of pores. You're just claiming they aren't. And Todd's behaviors and what Amber's condition with the burned feet says this was a set fire. Todd is lying, and he killed his kids. That's what the evidence shows. That's why the jury found him guilty in less than an hour. And I can't. I don't know that anybody ever said. I didn't see this anyplace. This is my analysis that Amber was actually in the room when he set the fire, and that that's how she got her feet burned, was that he poured that fire, get himself out of the house, and she came out then trying to find her daddy and went to the place she thought daddy would be. And I don't think anybody said that exact scenario, but that explains to me why her feet were burnt and why she ended up in the master bedroom, and why Todd didn't have any damage, because he was already out the door when she started down the hall to try to find daddy. So that's my analysis, and I'm pretty comfortable with it. So anyway, wait a minute, what's this? I'm trying to find some comment not on the death penalty. He was witness saving his dartboard only trying to be restrained. Yeah, that's again behavioral stuff, which you can again say, well, he's just a psychopath who doesn't care. True, but again, you have to put everything together. I don't know how many times I can say the totality of the evidence. As a profiler, I have to look at the totality of the evidence, not just one thing or the other. Put it all together, and all together it shows premeditated arson crime committed by Todd Willingham. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. That is my opinion. I'm sticking with it. I believe it. And I don't think the Innocence Project proved anything with their very subjective arson experts who are anti-death penalty, who did not, in my opinion, provide a properly scientific basis. They did provide new scientific views on things, but it seemed like their purpose was to keep the question of accidental death open so they could say he was innocent, which is not their business to do at all. And I find that, especially in the incendiary show, that listening to Hearst make up the stuff that he made up was so unscientific, it's kind of shocking. Because you're going to be a scientist, be a scientist. Be a scientist. And I didn't see that to be true in his words in the show. And but I will try to link everything I can that I can remember in the description below. And so that's it for today. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Wendy, for putting up with me and coming back. And so if you're new to the show, again, please do like and subscribe. Consider joining Patreon. Makes a difference keeping this channel going. It is an educational channel. I always try to tell the truth as I see it. I try to do my analysis as I view it. I don't do things to be popular, because a lot of times what I say is not terribly popular, and therefore, that's not a way to get tons of subscribers. You got to be on the right side of popular, but I'm often not. I did go into this. I actually, when I first started looking at it, I thought, oh my God, I might agree with the Innocence Project on this one, because I keep looking for the ones I actually truly agree with them. Because there's got to be some. And I can't remember whether I did agree with them before, but anyway, I really thought this might be the one. And as I started looking at it, I'm like, yeah, couldn't get there. Couldn't get there. Again, if you think he shouldn't have been convicted, fine. But there's no proof he's innocent either. And I think the totality evidence does point to his guilt, which is why the jury found him guilty. If from what I know from sitting here, if I were on the jury, I would have found him guilty. So anyway, thank you for being here. And for all of you who are patrons, I'll see you during the week. I'm not sure, Wednesday or Thursday for the hangout. And so send in suggestions for what you might like me to cover during those 2 hours. And I look forward to seeing you all there. And till next time, bye.